Have you ever noticed how most careers actually begin? Not with a dream, not with a purpose, not even with a decision. They usually begin with someone else's decision. A student finishes the school, his three closest friends decide to join engineering. One says, let's all join the same college. His parents say, engineering is a safe career. And uncle adds, you will always have a future. So everyone seems confident except the one person whose future is actually is. So he joins not because he chose it, because it was the easiest decision not to question. So 4 years pass. He graduates, he gets a job, not because he loves the work, because that is what comes next. Then life starts moving faster than he ever imagined. So, marriage, a home loan, car loan, children, school fees, EMIs, promotions, responsibilities every year. So, every year he becomes busier, every year he becomes better at the job, every year people tell him you are doing well. And maybe he is. Until one evening, driving home from work, stuck in the traffic, he asks himself a question he hasn't asked in years. Is this still the life I want? Not. So, do I have a good job? Not. Am I earning enough? A much quieter question. So, when did I stop choosing my own life? I have realized something: life rarely changes in one big decision. It changes through hundreds of small decisions that we never stop to question. Somewhere between the college admissions and the home loan EMIs, many people stop designing their future and simply begin living the one that was designed for them. Let's talk about that, the pattern. So, that story isn't about the engineering, it is about one student. In fact, it isn't about the careers, it's about something much deeper, a pattern. One that I have seen repeating again and again. Sometimes it's a student choosing a degree because of his friends joined. Sometimes it's a professional staying in the same company because the salary is good. Sometimes it's a founder spending years building a product nobody really wants. Different people, different industries, different ladders, but strangely the same pattern. And the more I met people, the more one thing surprised me. So it wasn't the average people who stayed on the wrong ladder, it was the intelligent ones. So the hardworking ones, the talented ones. At first, I couldn't understand why. So shouldn't intelligent people recognize they are on the wrong path sooner? Shouldn't the experience make better decisions easier? I thought so too. But I was so wrong because intelligence has an interesting side effect. It gives us the ability to justify almost anything. I have already spent 4 years studying this. Maybe next year will be better. So I can't waste everything I have invested. So what will people think if I leave now? So the smarter we become, the better we become at defending yesterday's decisions instead of questioning today's reality. Then I noticed something else. People rarely wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to spend the next 20 years in a life I don't enjoy. So nobody does that. It happens quietly. One decision becomes another. One responsibility becomes another. One promotion, one salary increment, one EMI, one expectations. Without realizing it, we slowly stop asking ourselves the questions that matter. Not because we are lazy, not because we are weak, because life keeps rewarding us for staying exactly where we are. And that is when I realized maybe the biggest career mistake isn't choosing the wrong ladder. Maybe it's continuing to climb without ever looking up to see where it's actually leading. That's when I started looking at careers as jobs and started looking at them as decisions, the journey. When I look back today, I don't think I climbed one wrong ladder. I think I climbed many. So, and strangely, I am grateful for every one of them. So, because every wrong ladder taught me something the right one never could. So, after college, I had no master plan. So, no 5 year roadmap, no perfect career strategy. I was simply curious. I joined fashion design. At the same time, I was learning visual design. In the evening, I was studying to become a Microsoft certified system engineer. So, if someone had seen me then, they probably would have laughed. This fellow doesn't know what he wants. So, looking back, I don't think I was confused. I think I was exploring. So there is a small difference. So then one opportunity changed everything. So a mentor invited me to help build an internet browsing center in those days. So not manage it, build it. So we started from nothing, assembling the computers, running the network cables, configuring the servers, installing the firewall, watching individual machines slowly become one connected system for nearly 3 months. So I couldn't wait to get to work every morning. So when the project was finally complete, I stayed back as a system engineer. I thought this is it. So this is my career. But something unexpected happened. So within a month, I was restless. Nothing was wrong. So the systems were working. The network was stable. Everyone thought the project had been a success. But every morning, I walked into the same room, looked at the same machines, and realized something inside me had stopped moving. So that is when I discovered something about myself. Building gave me energy, maintaining took it away. That wasn't a career lesson, that was a self discovery. So it had nothing to do with the computers, it had nothing to do with who I was becoming. So around the same time, I also had an opportunity to work in the Tamil film industry as a fashion designer. So for many people, that would have been a dream. I even received an opportunity to continue working on a bigger films. But once again, something didn't feel right. So fashion wasn't the problem, the film industry wasn't the problem, the opportunity wasn't the problem. I simply realized I wasn't searching for a profession, I was searching for the kind of a work that made me come alive. So I walked away. So not because it was the wrong career, because it wasn't my direction. So looking back now, I don't call those years mistakes. I call them as experiments. So fashion taught me aesthetics, engineering taught me systems. So visual design taught me creativity. Years later, products taught me thinking, business taught me decisions, investing taught me ownership. Every ladder left something behind. Every ladder prepared me for the next one. So people sometimes ask me, so how did you become a business designer? So the honest answer is I didn't design to become one. I discovered one small truth after another. So one ladder at a time. And maybe that is the point. Sometimes the purpose of climbing the wrong ladder isn't to reach the top. It's to discover what you have really meant to build. Why we stay? If climbing the wrong ladder is so common, why don't people simply climb down? I have asked myself that question for years because from the outside the answer looks very simple. If you are unhappy, leave. But life is never that simple. The more people I met, the more I realized something. People don't stay because they are weak. They stay because every stage of life quietly gives them a reason to stay. So when we are young, our parents make the decision for us. So which school, which college, which degree. At that stage, it's natural. We need a guidance. But somewhere along the way, guidance slowly becomes dependence. So without even noticing, we stop asking, what do I really want? And we start asking, what will everyone else think? So years ago, one of my students graduated and got an ordinary job offer. Instead of settling, he made a decision that surprised everyone. So he moved to Ireland, started from zero, new country, new people, new challenges. Today, he's a lead product designer. Around the same time, another student of mine was already experienced, talented, capable. He received an offer too, a small salary increase, familiar environment, a safe decision. He stayed. Today, he is also doing well, good salary, comfortable life. Nothing wrong with that, but whenever I think about those two students, I don't compare their salaries, I compare their decisions. One was willing to become a beginner again, the other wasn't. So that made all the difference. Then I saw the same pattern again. So this time with the founder. So he came to me from London, nearly 20 years in the automobile industry. An investor was ready. Money wasn't the problem. The factory in China was almost finalized. Everything looked perfect during a 5-day workshop. We kept asking the questions not about the technology, not about the manufacturing, about the problem. By the end of the workshop, he made one of the hardest decisions of his life. He stopped the project. Many people would have called that a failure. I didn't. Because sometimes the bravest business decision is deciding not to build. That one decision probably saved him years of frustrations and crores of rupees. Even founders climb the wrong ladder. The only difference is their ladders are more expensive. Then comes something even more difficult, identity. So when people around you start saying that you are doing so well, you are the expert, you build a great career, walking away becomes harder. Not because you are afraid of losing money, because you are afraid of losing the identity you have spent years building. So I have been there too. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't the changing your career. It's accepting that you have outgrown the person you used to be. And finally, there is fear. Not fear of failure, fear of judgment, especially in countries like ours. We don't make decisions alone. We make them with the parents, relatives, friends, neighbors. Everyone has an opinion. Sometimes we continue climbing not because we love where the ladder is taking us, but because we don't want to answer one uncomfortable question: why did you leave? And then one day we wake up because nothing changed. So looking back, I don't think people lose their dreams overnight. I think they slowly trade them for comfort, one reasonable decision at a time. And that's when I realized maybe the problem was never the ladder, maybe it was the decisions we stopped questioning. The business designer lens. After watching thousands of careers, building hundreds of products, working with the founders and businesses, one question refused to leave me. So, why do founders find it easier to change a product than the professionals find it to change a career? Think about it. A founder builds version 1. It doesn't work, so they build version 2, then version 3. Sometimes they change the product completely. Sometimes they even change the entire business model. Nobody calls them confused. Nobody says, why didn't you stick with your first idea? In fact, the market rewards them for adapting because everyone understands one simple truth: the mission stays the same, only the solution changes. Then why don't we allow ourselves the same freedom? So why do we believe the career we choose at 20 must still define us at the 40? So that never made sense to me. Somewhere along the way, I started looking at careers as job. I started looking at them the way a founder looks at building a company, not as a title, not as a designation, but as a series of decisions. So each decisions teaching me something, each experience becoming a raw material for the next version of myself. So that is when I realized something that completely changed the way I think. Every career is really a product. And if that's true, then who is the founder? You are. Your skills are the features, your experience are the user research, your failures are the prototypes, your reputation is the brand, your income is only one outcome. Suddenly, everything looked different. When I look back at my own life, fashion design, visual design, engineering, products, business, consulting, education, none of them were disconnected. Each one solved a different problem. Each one added another capability. Each one made the next version possible. I wasn't changing the careers, I was iterating. So that's why I don't believe the people should fall in love with a profession. I think we should fall in love with a problem worth solving. So professions change, industries change, technology changes. Today it's AI, tomorrow it will be something else. But if you know the problem you are meant to solve, you will always find a new way to solve it. The ladder changes, the purpose doesn't. And maybe that is what designing a career really means. Not finding one perfect job, not climbing one ladder forever, but continuously redesigning your life as you understand yourself better. Because products evolve, businesses evolve, technology evolves, human beings evolve. Why should your career be the only thing that doesn't? Maybe the biggest career mistake is believing that your first version has to become your final version. One better decision. So, how do you know whether you are climbing the wrong ladder? I don't think anyone else can answer that for you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your manager, not even me. I realized that whenever I reached an important decision in my own life, I found myself asking the same four questions. Eventually, I gave it a name, the ladder test. Not because it tells me what to do, but because it reminds me what to question. So, the first question: did I choose this ladder or did someone else choose it for me? Sometimes the loudest voices around us slowly becomes our own. The second question: am I still learning or am I simply repeating? So growth usually feels uncomfortable. Repetition usually feels safe. So don't confuse one for the other. The third question: Am I staying because I still love what I am building or because I'm afraid to leave? So fear doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like a responsibility. Sometimes it looks like a security. Sometimes even looks like a success. So and the last question, if I were starting my career today with everything I know now, would I still choose this ladder again? Not 10 years ago, not before marriage, not before responsibilities. Today, would I choose it again? If your honest answer to most of those questions is no, don't panic. Don't resign tomorrow morning. Don't make emotional decisions. Just be honest with yourself. Because the moment you are honest, something changes. You stop climbing out of habit and you start climbing with intention. So I have realized something. There is nothing wrong with climbing the wrong ladder. In fact, sometimes that is exactly how we discover ourselves. So the real mistake is convincing ourselves that because we spend years climbing it, we have to spend the rest of our life staying on it. So every ladder I climbed gave me something. Every ladder I left gave me something even more valuables. The courage to climb the next one. So before you make your next career decision, don't ask which career pays more. Don't ask which career is popular. Don't even ask which career is safe. Ask yourself something much more important. Am I designing my future or am I simply continuing a decision I stopped questioning years ago? Because nobody, not your parents, not your friends, not your company, not society, not even AI, can design your life for you. Only you can. So design it consciously, one decision at a time.